The events of the first part begin 7 years ago in the Duchy of Lublin. The heroine's original name was Soyona, who was just an ordinary book reader at the age of 20 who enjoyed novels. However, due to a sudden accident, the heroine's life ends in an instant. When she thinks that this is the end, the heroine opens her eyes and finds herself embodied in the body of another person, and the heroine was confused at first, but she was able to realize that she was inside a miserable novel with a rating of +19, called The Bird's Cage, and the heroine would be the mother of the evil second hero. The original Alyssa had grown up in a longer time than her age because of her parents and the strict treatment of the Duke and the fact that she was emotionally deprived. Alyssa becomes obsessed with her husband, Richard, and thus ends up at his hands. However, the heroine decides that she will not allow this fate to happen again and that she does not want to die like this. There are more than 10 years left before the heroine Alyssa dies in the original novel, and during this time the heroine must change. Her fate after that is that the heroine is summoned by Duke Albert of Lublin, who is the most powerful man in the empire and nicknamed the Storm Man, but he is just an unhappy man and lost his wife and only son in a year. After that, we return to the events of the novel and we find that the Duke tells the heroine that she will marry the young Duke Richard, and for this reason it was decided. The heroine's inclusion in the Duke's family. Yes, you wonder why the only Duke in the empire is trying to marry a mere baron's daughter, who would have lived on the streets because she lost her parents. Alyssa's father, Baron Ronfrin, died 3 years ago, and then her mother died immediately in a car accident, a few days after her husband's death, and only Alyssa, who was lucky to escape from the same carriage, but despite that, she had no possessions left due to the failure of her father's business, and she had no relatives to take care of her. Duke Albert took care of me because he only needed me, and the Duke tells the heroine that if she gets married and has a child in a comfortable home, she will be able to just sit and enjoy everything that her husband has built, and this is also that the heroine will be convinced to marry the young Duke Richard. At this moment, the heroine says to herself, he has just begun to talk and remembers the children, what a stinky old man. The heroine's thoughts are interrupted by the entry of the servant with the wise man, and the servant says to Duke Albert, His Highness the young Duke. He encountered a gang of bandits on his way here, so he was late, so the Duke responded to the servant and said that there were no bandits on the main road. It turned out that this was a trick by the servant to cover up the absence of the hero and hide his unwillingness to marry. The servant told the Duke that it seemed that His Highness the young Duke would come from the mountain road, so the Duke asks him, should he come from the mountain road? The servant responds to him and says that the young Duke is only trying to protect his lands, but Duke Albert is not convinced by the servant's words, and he knows that the young Duke is not happy with this marriage, and the Duke asks the heroine to sign the marriage documents, and at this moment the heroine says for herself, there is still more than a decade before the heroine, Elsa, dies in the original novel, so things will be fine as long as she does not have a child during this period and does not get close to the young Duke Richard. The heroine says to herself that after a period of this marriage, she will be able to live well in the Duke's castle, and she will be able to obtain large alimony funds upon divorce from Duke Richard, and there is nothing to worry about, and she signs the marriage certificate. After that, the wise man announces that Richard Lublin and Elsa Longren now they have become husband and wife in the presence of goddess Erin, and after this moment, the heroine decides that she will only stay in this house for 8 years and then move away from this place.